Hello everyone. Now, today we shall solve the next question in the projection of solid series. We have here in front of us a pentagonal prism, 25 mm sides of base and 60 mm axis length, rests on HP on none of its base corners. Draw the projections of the prism when the axis of the prism is inclined to HP at 40 degrees and to VP at 30 degrees. Right? So, let us look at the criteria which we are supposed to satisfy to get the solution to the problem. The first criteria is the shape, that is a pentagonal prism. Second criteria is the dimension, that is 25 mm sides of base and 60 mm axis length. It is resting on HP. It is resting on one of its base corners on HP. The axis of the prism is inclined to HP at 40 degrees and the same axis is inclined to VP at 30 degrees. This is again another beta angle problem, right? The first step, to draw the XY line. So we have X, Y, VP at HP. So let us draw the pentagon first. So it's a pentagon of 25 mm sides of base. So from here, 20, 25. So from here, I shall draw the angle of 72 degrees, right? So measure from the outside, it is 72. Again measure from the outside, again it is, from the outside it is 72. Draw two lines. And measure 25 mm in the compass over here, keeping it here, cut the arc. The next step, from here, cut the arc. So join all these 5 points with the proper visible line and we shall get our pentagon. Right? This is very similar to what we did in the previous problem, but however the first position, if you observe, it will be the exact same as the previous question, right? So I have my A bracket A1 over here, B bracket B1, C bracket C1, D bracket D1 and E bracket E1. So let us try to identify the CG, that about 25 mm at 12.11, 12, 12.5. This is my center, and from here also it is 11, 12, 12.5. I'll draw two projection lines just to identify the CG. Basically I have drawn two perpendicular bisectors. Now from here, this point becomes my O bracket O1, and let us show the dimensions also, since we have one of the perpendicular edges. It is 25 mm. Let us draw the projection line. So since it is 60 mm from here, I have the axis line. And finally, point line for B bracket B dash, right? So this is supposed to be a projection line. I cannot do it. So I have my points. So this here becomes my B1 dash, this here becomes my B dash. This here is my A1 dash bracket C1 dash. This here is my A dash bracket C dash. This here is my O dash, this here is my O1 dash. This here is my E1 dash bracket D1 dash. This here is E dash bracket D dash. And finally, the total axis length, which is 60 mm, right? So everything with respect to the first position has been completed, the shape, dimension and resting on HP. So let us satisfy the second two criteria for this particular problem. It is resting on one of its base corners on HP. So as per our figure, it is B1 dash. If I rotate it in the clockwise direction, that is this entire figure is recreated over here and rotated in the clockwise direction, then it will end up resting on B1 dash. But as in the case of previous problem, if I rotate in the anti-clockwise direction, then it will end up resting on one of its base corners, right? So as long as you satisfy the criteria for the problem, you are well to do. Okay, so I shall locate a point here. That becomes my B1 dash. Okay, and since the lines are parallel to each other, and the axis makes an angle of 40 degrees to HP, even the line B1 dash to B dash I think I'll take another point, maybe a little closer from here at 40 degrees, right? The total length, which is 60 mm, I shall measure and cut the arcs. So basically I'm recreating the first position in the second position, however inclined at an angle of 40 degrees, right? So this becomes my new B dash and this is my B1 dash, which is at an angle of 45 degrees. Then after this, draw two perpendicular lines. And this length from B1 dash to E1 dash bracket D1 dash, I am not sure what is the length is, okay, but however let's assume it as some x value. Keeping it here, I shall cut the arc here and over here, right? So this becomes my E dash bracket D dash and this becomes my E1 dash bracket D1 dash, okay. This is my axis line, and after I finish drawing the axis line, I'll extrapolate this line backwards, so automatically this line becomes 40 degrees, right? So from here on, this becomes my, this is my A dash bracket C dash, this is my O dash, this is my A1 dash bracket C1 dash, and this is my O1 dash, right? So let us draw the projection line from each of these points. So we have our points. Let us name the points now. So I have my A1 over here, B1 over here, C1 over here, D1 over here, and E1. Then I have my point A, B, C, D, and E. Right? So again, let us follow the rules now. Let us identify the points. So join all the outermost points with proper visible lines. Outermost points are joined with proper visible lines. The next rule, second rule, identify the point which is closest to the XY line. So according to our figure, it is B1 dash. So any line coming out of B1 dash will be a hidden line unless it is an outer edge. So from, I'm sorry, I think I have made a mistake. So this is A1, B1, C1, D1 and E1. This is just A, B, C, D and E. Right? Yeah. So any line coming out of B1 will be hidden line unless it is an outer edge. So B1 to A1 is not an outer edge. B1 to C1 again not an outer edge. And B1 to B again is not an outer edge. All the other remaining lines are visible lines. So E to D, D to C and E to A. Similarly, E to E1 and D to D1. Right? And finally, we also have our axis line. An axis line, draw the projection line from here and from here. So I have my axis line over here. So from this point becomes my point O and this point here becomes my point O1. Right? So here again we are satisfied. Two more criteria. The criteria are resting on one of its corners of the base on HP and the axis is inclined at 40 degrees to HP. Now the third position, I am supposed to satisfy the criteria that it is resting on one of its corners on HP and the same axis makes an angle of 30 degrees to VP. So what I have done is I have drawn a line over here which is parallel to the XY line. Now this line, from this point I shall take an appropriate point and from that point I shall draw a 30 degree line and I shall follow the rules that I have to do to identify my beta angle. The first step, I think you people know already, we have done quite a number of beta angle problems. So O to O1 dash, we'll measure, keeping it here, cut the arc. Okay, from this point, I'll draw another line which is parallel to the same reference line or the XY line. Now I'll come to the second position, top view, and I shall measure from O to O1. Keeping it here, I shall cut the arc again. So this becomes my beta angle. So according to our figure, the beta angle which I have gotten is 40 degrees, right? So this is my O and this is my O1. So let us try to locate the points now. Now as you can see, since it's symmetric, I think you will know by now O and B and O and B1 are the same length. So I shall cut the arcs over here. Next, from B to C I shall measure, which will be the same as B to A, B1 to A1 and B1 to C1. I just hope it doesn't cross the XY line. If it does cross, please do forgive me. I cannot redo the entire drawing again. So I'll proceed as it is. Okay. Next, I'll measure the distance from O to D and O to E. I shall measure O to D somewhere here and O to E is over here. Again O1 to D1, O1 to D1 and O1 to E is the same length. This is my point E, this is my point D, right? Then from D1 to C, I shall measure, which will be the same as E to A. Yes, it is not crossing the XY line. It's very close. Dear students, please ensure that it doesn't cross the XY line at any cost. Okay. Then I'm yet to locate which are the other points. This is my point C. This is my point A. I have my point B over here. This is my point B1. So I'm yet to locate A1, C1, D1 and E1. Okay. So let us locate the points. So B1 to D1, B1 to E1 I shall measure, cut the arcs. Too many lines, I understand that, but we have to recreate it. There is no other choice. O1 to E1 and O1 to D1. Right, so I have my point here, which is my E1, and I have my point here, which is my D1. Again, measure the distance from D1 to C1 and A1 to E1. Okay, so I have my point A1, B1, C1, D1 and E1, A, B, C, D and E. Right, so join all these points with proper visible lines. A to A1. Basically, we are trying to recreate the second position top view, the third position top view, however, which is inclined at the beta angle as shown in the procedure. Right, so we have recreated the third position top view in the second position top view. Now we shall draw the projection line from each of these points and try to locate the third position front view now. So from point A, I have one projection line. From point B, the second projection line. Point C, one more. Point D, one more, and point E, one more. See, I would suggest you people to identify the points after drawing from one plane surface, because if you draw all the projection lines at the same time, there is a tendency to get confused. I understand that, so you can do this. So I have drawn the projection line for A, B, C, D and E, and A1, B1, C1, D1 and A dash, B dash, C dash, D dash and E dash. So, so A and A are meeting here, this is my new A dash. B and B are meeting here, this is my new B dash. C and C dash are meeting here, this is my new C dash. D and D dash are meeting here, this is my new D dash. And finally E and E dash are meeting here, this is my new E dash. So I have located all the 5 points. Now I will come to A1, B1, C1, D1. So from A1, I think A1 and C, this line for the projection line for C, they are they're almost the same or identical. So however, I'll draw one more projection line over here just to differentiate. So A dash, B dash, C dash, D dash, and E dash. Again, from A1 and C1 I have a single projection line. I'm not going to do from B1 since it's already along the XY line. Okay, so let us locate the points now. I have A1 and A1 over here. So this is my new A1, B1, and B1 is over here. So this is my new B1. C1 and C1 is over here. New C1 dash, right? D and D1 is over here. D1 dash, and finally E and E1 dash are here. This is my E1 dash, right? So now let us join all these points with proper visible lines and follow the rules. The first rule is to draw all the outermost points with proper visible lines. So D dash to D1 dash, D1 dash to C1 dash, C1 dash to B1 dash, B1 dash to, I think it doesn't go directly to this one. So B1 dash to A1 dash. A1 dash, I think it should be going directly to A dash. I'll draw it. Okay. Then A dash to E dash and E dash to D dash. So I believe my B dash should somewhere be on the inside over here. It has not come out correct because as you people have realized, some of my projection lines are not perfectly vertical or horizontal. Nonetheless, if you people do it with grids, you will be able to get the perfect lines, and the location of the points will also be easier, right? The next rule is the points closest to the XY line. Since it's a pentagon, I'm supposed to take 2 points. The 2 points are C and B. So any line coming out of C and B will be hidden line unless it is an outer edge. So C dash to D dash, C dash to C1 dash, and C dash to B dash. Next, B dash. So any line coming out of B will be hidden line unless it's an outer edge. Actually speaking, I think the point B will be here somewhere. So I'll just locate it just for convenience purpose. So please try to ignore the error. Okay, so B dash to B1 dash will be another hidden line. B dash to A dash, and B dash to C dash, which we have already drawn, and all the other remaining lines will be visible lines. Yeah, so we have our pentagonal prism, after which last step is to draw the axis line. So again I repeat, the point B is supposed to come somewhere on the inside, but unfortunately it has not come for me. It's most likely because my projection lines are not perfectly vertical or horizontal. If I had drawn it with grids, which you people will be doing, so if you draw it with grids, you will get it right. Okay, so my point O and O1. So draw this with the axis line. Right? Okay. So we have our solution. Thank you for your time.